Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be showing you guys this Victor Wembanyama build that is an absolutely insane build to use, especially in the rec on NBA 2K24. Now, I'm not going to show you guys just one Victor Wembanyama build today because it is not easy to make Wemby in this game. So I'm going to be showing you two versions today. One of them is going to be 7'1" and the other is going to be 7'3". With all of that out of the way, man, let's get started with today's video. Let's go. All right, so for the first Wemby build, we're going to be going with the center position. Height is going to be 7'1", weight 220 pounds with a 7'9" wingspan. And now starting things off with the finishing, we're going to have an 86 close shot, which is going to get you fearless finisher on gold, as well as hook specialist on gold, which are very nice things to have on a 7'1" build. Then moving on to the driving layup, we're going to have an 80, which is going to get you slithery on silver and access to a bunch of really great big man layup styles, which include Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, and if you are starter 3, Domantas Sabonis. Then moving on to the driving and standing dunk, we're going to have a 75 and an 81, which is going to get you a bunch of really great dunk packages, which include the Karl Anthony Towns dunk package, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as well as the pro big man standing contact dunks. And then lastly, for the post control, we're going to be going with an 81 just to get post spin technician on gold, which is a very nice badge in this year's game. Now moving on to the finishing clips on this build, listen, you're going to be a great finisher at the rim on this build. You're going to be able to attack the basket with dunks, layups. You're going to have a lot of weapons at your disposal, and you're going to be really nice in transition on this build, just like Wemby in real life. I mean, look at this. We're getting Giannis dunks in transition, and we're moving at a swift pace as well. You can definitely score out of the post with this build as well, whether it's with your post hop shots or your up and unders, just like you saw right there. So you're going to be serviceable in the finishing category on this build, whether it's either dunking or out of the post. All right, so now moving on to the shooting, we're going to have an 82 mid-range shot, which is going to get you catch and shoot on gold with this build, which is going to make it a lot easier to hit all of your spot up shots, whether it is in the mid-range area or out at the three-point line. And speaking of that three-point line, you're going to have a 76 three-point shot on this build. Now listen, Wemby hasn't been shooting super great from the three-point line this season. However, for a lot of people that haven't been playing 2K a whole lot this year, it is very difficult to shoot. So I didn't want to go super low with the three-point rating on this build, so we ended up just sticking with the 76. And like I mentioned, with that 76 three-point rating, you are going to be a knockdown shooter, especially if you do your lethal shooter drills once a week, which is something that you definitely want to do, so you can get those lethal zones and become an even better shooter in those specific spots that you pick. Now, although Wemby has been a very inconsistent mid-range and three-point shooter so far this season, he is only 19 years old, and there's definitely a lot of possibility for him to become a good mid-range scorer, especially since he has shown the interest to be a good mid-range scorer with the amount of dribble pull-ups that he does take. And not only that, but he does have very good shooting form, which does show promise for him potentially becoming a better three-point scorer in the future. Now, with the ratings that you do get on this build, if you are locked in with your shot timing, you can definitely hit some shots super consistently on this build, whether it's out of the post, off of the dribble in the mid-range area, or even off of the dribble out at the three-point line, as long as you know what you are doing. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, with a lot of the rec randoms that I've been playing with recently, I felt like I was on the San Antonio Spurs when I was playing on this Wemby build, because I was losing a lot, even though I would play as good as I could. But anyways, moving on to the actual jump shot I was using on this build, we're going to be using Jonathan Isaac base, release 1 Tim Duncan, release 2 Marquise Chris. You see the blend, you see the ratings. It's a very, very good jump shot. Now moving on to the playmaking, we're going to have a 75 pass accuracy on this build, which is going to get you access to 2 passing styles, which include John Morant and Domantas Sabonis. Now at the current pass accuracy rating, I do not recommend either of those pass styles, and I recommend that you just stick with none. And when it comes to badges, you're also going to get break starter on silver on this build, which is going to help you throw outlet passes when trying to move in transition. As for the ball handle and speed with ball, we ended up going with a 60 and 58 respectively. This is just going to help you dribble just a little bit better on this build, and there's actually a secret threshold at the 60 ball handle rating, and that's what's going to allow you to get a couple different speed boost animations on your build, as well as being able to do explosive behind the backs. So this year's game, you can actually do explosive behind the backs on a 7'1" center. Now when it comes to playmaking, that 75 pass accuracy is going to be really nice. You're going to get the job done, especially in the half court set. There's going to be enough velocity on the ball when throwing from one place to the other that's going to get to your teammates in a quick enough rate to where defenders can't close out and get contests on the shot. And then when it comes to throwing passes in transition, you're definitely going to be able to throw the break really well with that silver break starter. Now there actually has been been a lot of debate when it comes to pass accuracy this year, and I'm a little bit torn when it comes to it. There are a lot of people that will say that you need high pass accuracy, especially in 5v5 modes, especially if you're playing something like competitive pro-am. And then there's people on the other end of the spectrum that say you do not need super high pass accuracy at all in any mode that you play. So I want you guys to comment down below and tell me what you guys think about pass accuracy in this year's game, and whether or not you think high pass accuracy is a valuable thing to have on any build this year. Obviously, some people might say you need high pass accuracy on point guards regardless of whether the attribute is good or not. But then there are some people that say, you know what, anywhere between 69 and 77 is good enough for any build. So again, comment what you guys think down below, and now let's move on to the defensive category for this build. But before we move on to the defensive category, here are all of the animations that I was using on this build when recording today's video. Now, there are going to be a couple animations that might stick out that you cannot get on your build, and one of them is definitely the Kevin Durant dribble pull-up that I have because I have hit starter 3. So if you have not hit starter 3, you cannot use that dribble pull-up, and I'm sorry, but it's unfortunate. And yeah. All right, so now moving on to the defense on this build, you're going to get a 77 interior defense, which is enough to get gold anchor, and as you can see with that, you also get a 92 block, which is the other requirement that you need to get to unlock the gold anchor badge. Now, since Wemby is a elite rim protector, I wanted to go at least a little bit higher than an 87, which is usually the usual block rating that I go on for these type of builds. So we ended up going with a 92 to get that gold anchor as well as gold chase down artist. And then when it comes to the perimeter defense and the steal, those are both going to be at 60. You need the 60 steal to get bronze interceptor, which is a very nice badge to have in this year's game. And then for the rebounding, we're going to be going with a 92 defensive rebound so you can get gold rebound chaser. Now, there's one thing that I do want you guys to understand with this build. This is not a meta 7'1" center build. This is a Wemby build, okay? As you're going to see later on in this video, the strength is not super high on this build, which means you're not going to get gold box out beast or Hall of Fame box out beast. You're going to have gold rebound chaser with silver box out beast, and that's something you don't want to do. That is totally fine, but understand I'm making this build to look like Wemby and play like Wemby. This is what we had to do. Now listen, with this build though, on the defensive end, you're definitely going to get a lot of stops in the paint, especially since you have that gold anchor. Now, for a lot of people, silver anchor is the sweet spot, and I do want you guys to comment down below. And I know I've asked a lot of questions in this video, but there's been a lot to talk about. Comment down below what you guys think. Is silver anchor the sweet spot, or do you think gold anchor is worth it or not, especially since defensive attributes are very expensive this year? But now back to talking about the build. You're going to be very good on the defensive end with this build. You're going to get a lot of stops just like Wemby. And Wemby, I think at this point is averaging like 2.5 blocks per game, and he's still like a potential DPOY candidate, which as a rookie is absolutely insane. Listen, I understand the weaknesses of Wemby's game. He doesn't have a whole lot of strength. He's not an efficient scorer, but the amount of promise that we're getting out of this kid, 19 years old on the San Antonio Spurs, it's kind of insane. But now, as you can see, here's the 7'1" version of the build fully maxed out. And obviously, there are some strengths and some weaknesses to this build. Since you're low weight on this build, you're actually going to be moving way faster than most 7'1" centers can do in this game. But since you have that low strength, maybe you get wormed a couple times on box outs. Maybe you can't stop someone from driving to the rim because your removable enforcer is only on bronze. There are pros and cons when it comes to making builds like this. And understand this is not a meta build. And if you only have enough VC to make one build, maybe don't make this. Maybe make something safer, make a meta build. But if you want a Wemby build, I mean, man, I think this is the best you can make. Unless if you're an absolute psychopath and you decided to make a 7'3" version of a Victor Wembanyama build, which you can see right here, right now. Now listen, it's going to have a lot of very similar pros and cons to the 7'1" build. You're going to be minimum weight, so you're going to be the fastest possible that you can be at the height of 7'3". But with that, you're going to have low strength, so you're not going to be great at boxing out, maybe stopping people from driving to the rim. And since you're 7'3", a lot of your attributes are going to be lower, so your driving layup is going to be lower, your mid-range and three-point shot are going to be lower since you are taller. But you're 7'3" with an 8'1" wingspan, which is actually pretty gnarly in this year's game. But with that being said, we're coming out of the My Player Builder and getting the player comparisons of Chris Kaman, Yusuf Nurkic, and DeAndre Ayton. And we're going to get the build name Rim Protector on this version of the build. And that's going to be it for today's video, man. I hope you guys enjoyed. Happy holidays to everyone. This should be uploading on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I haven't fully decided yet, but again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I'm out. Peace.